Clippers posted the third-best winning percentage in clutch time this past season, and Kawhi Leonard can certainly make that even better. He finished with the fourth most clutch time points last season. Let's bring in Stephen A. Smith now. Steve, what was your reaction when you heard about not only Kawhi Leonard heading to the Clippers, but also the trade involving Paul George?
Well, stunned to say the least. The Paul George part is what's stunning. We all knew that in terms of Kawhi Leonard and where he might end up. We all knew it was going to be the Clippers, the Lakers, or the Toronto Raptors. And for the last week or two, we've been hearing the Lakers, the Lakers, the Lakers. And then the Clippers kept saying to people like myself and others, excuse me, that ain't going to happen. I had one Clipper tell me there's no way in hell he's going to the Lakers. He's going to choose us, or he's going to stay in Toronto. So when you heard that Kawhi Leonard was going to end up a Clipper, that wasn't too surprising when you consider the fact that you have the richest owner in sports. You have one of the greatest executives in the history, if not the greatest executive in the history of the sport, in Jerry West, who obviously is the right-hand man of Steve Ballmer. And you have a Hall of Fame caliber coach in Doc Rivers, who, no disrespect to anybody else, but clearly is an upgrade from Frank Vogel. So you look at the Clippers organization, their mentality is that we're in a better situation right now. Lakers missed the playoffs 6 straight years. We just won 48 games, battled against the reigning champions in the first round, Golden State at the time. Where the shocker comes in is Paul George, because Paul George had an opportunity to be a Laker. Certainly things didn't work out in terms of Magic Johnson trying to acquire him, but as a free agent, he was free to go if he had so chose and had wanted to. And instead, he stayed in OKC. His relationship with Russell Westbrook obviously was considered to be stellar. Yes, they did get bounced out in the first round by the Portland Trail Blazers. We all saw Damian Lillard hit that shot over Paul George to win the series. But to hear that Paul George ultimately approached OKC after being recruited by Kawhi Leonard and asking to be traded, and then for this to happen where essentially 5 different picks along with 2 players are given up by the Los Angeles Clippers, it's one thing to see Kawhi end up a Clipper. It's another thing to see the Clippers pull off getting him with Paul George. That is a shocker.
All right, so now what's the pecking order in the West now? How much better are the Clippers? Are they the favorite in the West now?
I think you have to give them the edge. I couldn't believe that anybody would come to me with a proposition that would say there's somebody better than the Los Angeles Lakers with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But the Clippers were clearly a better team this year. And when you talked about them getting Kawhi Leonard, you only thought about him. But if you have Kawhi Leonard with Paul George and you have 2 stars on your team with the Los Angeles Clippers, with the depth that they have, with the coaching staff that they have, with the resources that they have, etc., I can't knock anybody right now who would think that the Clippers might very well be above the Lakers in the pecking order, particularly since, for the most part, they have a team, whereas in the case of the Los Angeles Lakers, you still have to construct one because they've got a roster to full out with LeBron and AD.
We've got a great rivalry here in Los Angeles in the same building beginning next season. Stephen, we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
A crazy night here in Los
Absolutely
Angeles.
Crazy. And we had another big story even before this one broke.
That's right. We were actually going to lead the show with Zion Williamson, right? Then we got hit with earthquakes, and they were severe, 7.1 magnitude, and it really played a role in several sporting events. Yeah, we felt it here. Light fixtures shaking. He's coming home to Southern California, but now with the Lakers, with the Clippers. 4-year, $142 million deal. He's come and join the Clippers, and he's not coming alone. The Clippers also are making a trade to acquire Paul George from Oklahoma City, trading a boatload of draft picks along with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Danilo Gallinari. We're live here in Los Angeles as all this is breaking. What a day. What a day it was, especially in a night with the earthquake and all that. Right. And then Kawhi Leonard makes his decision. and he knows where he is going to be playing basketball, right here in Los Angeles, but with the Clippers. Joining us now is our Ramona Shelburne, and the Lakers are not fans of the Oklahoma City Thunder right now, Ramona Shelburne, because the Thunder helped make this happen, helped bring Kawhi to the Clippers because he was able to bring Paul George with him in this blockbuster deal. How did this happen? How did OKC make this happen for Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers organization?
So, the Oklahoma City Thunder felt like they didn't have much of a choice here because within the last couple of days, and really what we've seen is in the last couple of days, free agency was pretty much over. Okay, free agency was July 1st and really June 30th, and this Paul George's trade demand came after free agency had begun, and so the Oklahoma City Thunder heard from Paul George that he requested a trade and he wanted to go to the Clippers to play with Kawhi, and they felt like, you know what, we've seen this movie before. We saw it in New Orleans last year with Anthony Davis. We saw this in San Antonio with Kawhi Leonard, and we're not about to go through this with Paul George. And they felt like, this is, obviously a team they felt like could contend. They had at least another year or so in them to contend. But if you were going to have an unhappy star there, they had to get what they could for him, and they got a fairly historic haul for Paul George here. But in some ways, the Thunder's perspective on it, they weren't really trading just Paul George. They were getting a haul for Kawhi Leonard too, because I'm not sure Kawhi Leonard goes to the Clippers without Paul George. We may be having a different conversation if they don't make this trade.
Yeah, I asked that question, Ronan. It's a good point. I asked that question to Woj earlier in SportsCenter, and he said he doubted that would happen, that he would have picked the Clippers if Paul George did not come with him. So that was interesting. So now as we look at the Clippers and we look at the Lakers situation, we found out the Lakers agreeing to a deal with Danny Green, a 2-year deal. When you look at the Lakers and where they stand, what is your takeaway for them? Now what?
Well, they were starting to get a sense that this wasn't going their way the last day or so with Kawhi Leonard, because the information, they kind of felt like this kept getting pushed back, and they had to go about their business. I mean, they have a trade for Anthony Davis that's supposed to be completed tomorrow, and because Kawhi Leonard was still out there, because you still had to wait on him, this is now 18 players involved in that trade and 8 different teams. I mean, this trade needed to go through on July 6th, and if Kawhi Leonard was still taking his time and was asking them, can you wait, this was going to start getting very uncomfortable for everyone involved. Now, Anthony Davis waived his $4 million trade kicker, and from what I understand, you can't unwind that. So he gave up $4 million for them to pursue Kawhi Leonard, and they thought they had a good chance at him. But, I guess he just has to, he's giving that money, I guess, to Danny Green. But I would expect them to move in short order to bring back Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I know they've been talking concurrently with JaVale McGee and Rajon Rondo, certain guys they've had on the team in the past. This was obviously not Plan A. Plan A was to get the 3 stars, but they still feel really good about Anthony Davis joining their team once that trade goes through tomorrow.
This we know, the rivalry, Clippers-Lakers, better than ever. Ramona Shelburne, thank you so much.
Thanks, Linda.
All right, from a top trade to top play, setting collection of draft picks in that deal. There it is. 4 unprotected first-round picks, 1 protected first-round pick, and 2 pick swaps.
Whoa.
In this trade, essentially, for both George and Kawhi Leonard, because George was the piece that the Clippers needed to get Leonard, and they're going to get both.
Joining us now on SportsCenter, the man who broke this story, our Adrian Wojnarowski. And Woj, can you take us through the process? How did Kawhi Leonard become a Clipper and bring Paul George with him?
Well, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard have had a good relationship. There's been an interest with both of them to have a chance perhaps to play together. But that became closer to a reality and became a real conversation earlier this week. The two of them met in L.A., talked in L.A. prior to Kawhi Leonard starting to take his meetings with the 3 teams he was considering. And earlier in the week, Paul George then went with his agent to Sam Presti, Oklahoma City's general manager, requested a trade to the Clippers to play with Kawhi Leonard. And that deal really came together in the last 24 hours. And essentially, for the price that the Clippers are paying, 4 unprotected first-round picks, a protected first-round pick, 2 pick swaps. Essentially, the way they looked at it was, we're trading for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, because I think they felt in the end that they weren't going to get Kawhi Leonard without having Paul George here. Kawhi Leonard wanted to play with a championship team, felt he had that with either the Lakers or the Raptors, but he had been focused all along on the Clippers, and when he pushed them to get this deal done, they went to great lengths, and Oklahoma City really leveraged at the mercy of a great player in Paul George. They got a deal that probably they weren't going to get anywhere else in the market. They knew in Oklahoma City their team is currently constructed was not good enough to win in the West, and they certainly knew if Kawhi Leonard went to the Lakers, that they weren't going to overtake that team. Sam Presti in the end felt he had no choice but to do the deal.
I'm sure the Lakers brass not thrilled with the Thunder brass right now for making this trade go through and resulting in Kawhi Leonard being a Clipper. But if this did not happen and OKC did not go for this, how close was Kawhi Leonard to agreeing to a deal with either the Lakers or the Raptors, from what you have learned?
I believe, my sense is that he would not have gone to the Clippers in the end unless they upgraded their team. The actions of the Clippers, the deal they made, tells you that they believed it too. And the idea for Steve Ballmer and Lawrence Frank, Michael Winger, and with the Clippers, imagining in their own building Kawhi Leonard paired with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and a Clipper team that was probably never going to have the opportunity to get a top 5 player in the NBA in the prime of his career, who was from Southern California. When was that opportunity going to come again? And they were going to sit and take a beating from the Lakers for years to come. It pushed them to get that deal done tonight. Kawhi Leonard essentially put this decision off on picking a team to allow Paul George, Oklahoma City, and the Clippers to get this done. They got it done within the last 90 minutes.
Patience paid off. He's playing in his hometown, and he's playing with one of his good friends, Paul George. That's our Adrian Wojnarowski, who broke this blockbuster story. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, now LA Clippers.
And Kawhi Leonard is going to bring a winning history to the Clippers. He has the highest winning percentage by a player in NBA history. Keep in mind, the Clippers have never reached the conference finals in their 49-season history. Leonard wants to become the primary offensive player. Clippers are a good fit. They were one of 3 teams to not have a single player average at least 65 touches per game last